This time I'm going to show you how to use an ancient technique called a grid to scale and copy a picture. This is an actual photographic picture that has been printed, and notice that I've used a red pen here. It doesn't have to be red, I just used it so I could see it easily. And I've made a regular grid over the surface. The same number of squares were then drawn on this paper at a larger scale. You can't see them anymore because I drew them very lightly and then erased them later. I'm going to put this away and show you the technique that I used. For this example, we're going to be copying, or at least starting to copy, this elephant picture. Notice there are 20 squares on this paper, and I'm going to put 20 squares on this paper in just a moment. This is in progress, and you can see that there are 20 squares with a little bit left over on the edges, but they're regular squares. They're the same height and width. There are 20 on this one, and over here there are the same number of squares, 4 across and 5 down. Now to make those squares I'm going to use a ruler. On this blank paper I'm going to measure out using this ruler. I need to find where the 0 mark is on the end. It's not all the way at the end. And then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Now since I'm going to make a 2-inch grid, I only need to use the even numbers at the moment. So I'm going to line it up with the 0 on the edge, and then I'm going to go to the 2-inch mark and I'm going to make a dot. And I'm going to go to the 4-inch mark and I'm going to make a dot. Then I'm going to go to 6 and 8. Then across the bottom of my paper, because it's not enough just to make it at one end, I'm going to make it at the other end so that you can connect the dots all the way across the paper. This should be near the end of your paper. It can be on the end of your paper because your paper is not bigger than your ruler. But see how I've lined it up with the 0 again and then gone every other so that I have dots to line it up with. And I measured from the same side of the paper when I did that so that when I go across, the line will be parallel to the edge of the paper. Notice that my lines are very light. I only need to be able to see them up close. I don't have to be able to see them from 10 feet away. If I make lines that are too dark to begin with, it won't help to erase them, because even when I erase them to make them lighter, they won't be light enough to actually disappear. Once the damage is done, you can't undo it. So keep those lines light to begin with. Now I've made all the lines across here except the last one. Notice that the last one is close to the edge, but it's not on the edge. Now I'm going to make dots going the other direction. Now there's going to be 5 squares this way, so I'm going to go to 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Measuring from the same side of the page at the other end, lining up with the 0, once again, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And I'm going to make light lines going the other direction now. You might notice that I've also put my pencil on the dot and moved my ruler up to it. That ensures that I will hit that dot if I do it that way. Those lines are going to be very light. I'm not sure if you can actually see them on this video, but I can see them as I make them. And that I can go back and make it again if it wasn't quite dark enough to be seen. But all of these should be just dark enough to be seen from a couple feet away, because you're not going to be working at it more than arm's length. Now I have 4 squares across and 5 down, and I'm going to label them since the original was labeled. Notice that I have the numbers going down the other side because that's where I left that little bit of extra space. It doesn't matter which side. It doesn't actually always have to be numbered as long as you can find each of the squares. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 across each way. So I'm going, here's next row, square for square. You're going to have 1 square for each one on the original. Now I'm going to show you the one that I'm working on. It's the same grid and the same picture. You see that the lines that I've already drawn on there are pretty light, and I can move them around as long as they're light, and I can erase them. And I get them just like I want them, square for square, making sure that each square goes into the next one. I can estimate on each of these as well, exactly where I'm going to be on that picture. That's what the grid does. It allows you to scale in such a fashion. Then I can darken later and take out the light lines afterwards.